Welcome you guys again. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are so excited to have you with us here at our NHA webinar with Shannon today. And we're going to get started in just a couple minutes, just letting everybody get a chance to get logged in and join us, and then we will get rolling in just a second. Okay, what we'll do is give it just another second, but while we have people joining from everywhere, if you guys want to work the chat, we'll get comfortable doing that since we're going to use it for some Q&A later, and just put what city you're joining us from. That would be fun. So let's do that while we have people logging on, and then we'll know who we have and who's represented, and then we'll get going. So just tell us where you're from. And just so you know, we do have people, NHA people here monitoring the chat today. So I see the numbers going up in that chat. I can't see everything in there right now, but I know people are monitoring it, and I see 60 something chats. So awesome participation there. Cool. That means there's a lot of you joining, and we are excited about that. So I think it's about the top of the hour. So give it just a second longer to see where everybody's from, and then we are going to go. Okay, so go ahead and keep doing that if that's what you're working on, but then we're going to shift in just a second and get started. We have people from everywhere, I'm sure. I'll take a look at that later, but thank you for being with us today. We are really happy to have you with us, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So I will kick it off. My name is Lauren Pisa, and I am the Business Development Sales Manager here at NHA. And I am, as I mentioned, very happy to be here with you and looking forward to the discussion today. So today, I will be presenting alongside one of our wonderful CCMA instructors, Shannon Lillard. And Shannon has been in healthcare her entire life. She's worked in various doctor's offices, including BCU Health, and she's taught medical assistants in the higher education space for 14 years. She's currently an assistant coordinator instructor with Community College Workforce Alliance, and she's NHA certified and has earned a CCMA, CPT, and CET. She's also a registered medical assistant with AMT. And today we are lucky that she is here to share with us the top tips she's learned for teaching MA students over the years. So thank you, Shannon. We are so happy to have you with us today.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So before I do turn it over to Shannon, we're just going to go over a few housekeeping things. So taking a minute here to talk about the live survey that we're going to have at the end of today's webinar. So as we often mention here at NHA, we strive to help educators like you in every way, from the products we create to our customer service and the supporting resources we provide. So as part of that commitment, we want to be sure that we're delivering the most valuable content possible through webinars like this one. So of course, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think. So today, if you could, at the end of the webinar, tell us if you found this information helpful, what other types of content would be helpful, what other topics you might be interested in, and what days and times work best for you. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll provide the link to the survey. And we'll throw that in the chat, give you guys a couple minutes to complete that survey, and somebody who enters will be the winner of a $100 Amazon gift card. So we know that's always a fun thing. Who doesn't want that? All righty. So before I do hand it over to Shannon, I am going to just touch on what you guys probably are all too familiar with, which is the current challenges out there in the medical assistant world, right? So COVID certainly didn't help it. We know that we definitely don't have enough medical assistants out there. And in the next 10 years, that number of medical assistants is projected to grow by 19.2%. So then we get the snowball. Retention rates are going in the wrong direction for both students, learners, and also people who are out there employed. So nearly 40% of medical assistant students are leaving their programs before graduation. And 65% of working MAs remain in their current job for less than a year. So keeps on snowballing, and we are in a situation. So we're working hard here at NHA to come up with solutions to help get these guys practice ready and really have them engaged and ready to go. And so Shannon is going to help speak to some of that and what she's doing to make that happen out there in the MA world. So I will say that the shortage is definitely driven by two things. So one being that MAs are resigning due to reductions in burnout caused by COVID. So we all know the pandemic has caused a bit of burnout. And so that is one issue. The second is the reduced number of academic training programs. So that's taken a hit and really not helping our problem. And so we've pivoted a bit, made some changes in how we're teaching, and I'm going to hand it over to Shannon now to kick it off with a poll question.
Great. So the first thing that I really want to start off with today is to find out how you guys are actually teaching your medical assistants or assisting students right now, especially during the COVID. So there's three options. You are either teaching in person, and that is great. That's what we were able to do prior to COVID. You could be teaching hybrid, which is something I'm doing, which means that I'm doing the majority of my lectures online. And then I'm having my students come in to do hands-on lab skills. And then the other way is that you're doing it completely online. So I'd like to take a minute just to figure out where people are going with this kind of process right now.
Yeah, it's looking like most in person right now.
That's great.
Yeah, bit of a shift probably.
Right. And I'm thinking because of it, being able to change a little bit, this probably was not where we were last year at this time, definitely. But I'm glad to see that a lot of us are being able to be in person. I also saw that a lot of us were in the hybrid situation, which is what I currently do. But for 14 years, I have been teaching as teaching the medical assistants. And I have found a way over my 14 years to be able to get a 100% pass rate. I had students yesterday that were in a day and night class, and all of them passed. And so that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today is ways that you can implement the resources from NHA into your own curriculum so that you can help these students that are coming in, get out, and get hired. So I'm going to share with you my 10 different tips, and we're going to start with tip 1. So I always incorporate the medical terminology as part of my curriculum. I believe the medical terminology is super important because it is, in a sense, a foreign language to everybody else, to the lay person. So this is a way for the medical assistants, the nurses, the doctors, and everybody else with a healthcare professional background to be able to communicate. Because it is Greek and Latin, it is dead languages, so they're not going to change. It doesn't matter where you're from, it's always going to be the same. And with NHA medical terminology, they have 16 different modules, which I emphasize all of them. I love their modules because the first 2 are dealing with knowing prefixes, suffixes, and the root words, which is the first module. Second one is dealing with different body systems and structures and things like that, and the medical terminology that goes with that. They then have your diseases and treatments for your third module, but the remainder of them are based on the different body systems. So when I'm going over body parts, body systems like the cardiovascular system, I can pull up that medical terminology module dealing with the cardiovascular system and explain certain medical terminology where it's specific for that system. There are activities that they get to do throughout to make sure they're picking up on the content that's being presented to them. And all of this is going to make it easier because not only is the final CCMA exam written in medical terminology, but they'll be able to break the words down to be able to understand things better when it is when they are taking their exam or when they're speaking with other healthcare professionals. So that is a good thing to include in your curriculum. Now for tip 2, I believe anatomy and physiology is a great thing because anatomy and physiology is so hard. Okay, and NHA has this available for you to implement along with what you're trying to teach. And it's one thing as an instructor to teach out of a textbook and use the words that the textbook's giving you to tell you, say for the cardiovascular system, how the blood runs through the heart and all that good stuff. But what NHA does is that they have in their modules different videos that visualize it for you. They kind of bring the words that are written in the textbook to life, and they allow you to show your students different ways, not just reading it, but visualizing it, seeing it happen in front of you. And because we have students that learn different ways, I think that's imperative because anatomy and physiology is very, very hard. NHA knows this. They have 25 different modules. The modules go through the different systems independently. So if you're specifically, like I said, talking about the cardiovascular system, then you can go to that module specifically, walk through it, learn about it, see the visual aspects of it, do the activities that go with it so that they get a better handle on what it is you're trying to tell them.
Awesome, Shannon. Thank you. And I'm just going to pause here to remind you, I got so excited about all of this that I forgot to say, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We have people working on that. So I know I mentioned that briefly at the beginning, but go ahead and we will address those later. And I'm just going to now just speak briefly to what you just said. I know you're using both our MedTerm and our AMP all-in-one resources, and they are just that. They are can be thought of as digital work texts. They are all-in-one learning resources for learning, practice, and assessment, all in one place, organized by body system, and will really keep that cohesive NHA feeling from product to product. These are really foundational courses. We definitely want to set them up for success with these engaging just tools, meeting them where they're at, hitting on all learning styles and really getting that foundation down. As Shannon mentioned, it is another language. And so we do want to set them up for success. And that's what we're going to do with these learning resources from NHA. And so I'll give it over back to you now to talk about tip number 3.
Thank you. So the PersonAbility, which can be implemented in your curriculum as well, it's a perfect thing. Honestly, I got to tell you, I've just learned about it a couple of months ago, but it's something I've kind of already been doing. And now I have the assistance of NHA to implement it with me. So what I do in my class is I bring it back old school. I make my students have actual medical folders, like the charts that we used to deal with back in the dinosaur age, where you would have progress notes and you'd have a place to put your labs and you'd have a place to put your registration forms. And I make them fill out registration forms. I give them progress notes from the very beginning that they're going to continually add to. So each time they come in for labs, they're adding progress note upon progress note. They have a place to put their EKG results, their throat swabs, their blood sugar results, all of that. And what I do is I get them to pair together, and one person will be a patient and one person will be the MA. And what they do is they have scenarios that they will go through where they will have a chief complaint. They will have history pertaining to their injury or their illness. They will be asked what their medications are. They will be asked what their medical history is, what their allergies are. Things like that that they will have to do during the patient interview, and they will write all of these things down. And sometimes I'll get the patient, whoever's playing the patient, to act up, to maybe be angry, to be fearful, to be sad, to see how that communication is going to go between the medical assistant. Are they going to pick up on the fact that they're scared? Are they going to pick up on the fact that they're angry and know how to kind of calm them down? and that sort of thing. And this is what the personability aspect does, is it's going to have various different modules that you're going to go through, and through virtual simulations, you're able to pick choices of what you would say in that situation. And I think that's so important, because what we talk about with personability is being able to communicate, not only with other healthcare professionals, but also with your patient that doesn't understand medical things. So how are you going to handle that angry patient? Things like that, which I think is great. So with that being said, my students get to interact each time they come in person. They come in person about 11 times during my 18-week program. So they're coming in to do new things each time, and they're using what you can get off of PersonAbility to help them learn how to communicate better.
Thank you, Shannon. And I will speak now to PersonAbility. PersonAbility is really just, I know you talked about, going old school, but PersonAbility is a great way to totally take it to today with the power of virtual simulation. So that's what drives PersonAbility, to be able to do the things that Shannon was talking about, really put the learner in the role of the allied health professional, and really just get them to make those professional decisions in a safe environment. And so we are uniquely positioned here at NHA, working with both educators and employers. And in doing that, we hear all the time from our employers that really the guys out there just aren't up to speed or really on par with their essential soft skills. So we're starting to call these things power skills, and they are really very powerful and can be worked on and have that behavior change driven through the gated technology that you see here on your screen. So this is very intentional to drive behavior change through the power of virtual simulation. Very cool. All right, Shannon, I'm giving it back to you for tip 4.
All right, now this is where I really get excited. So with the CCMA study guide, you have 17 modules. This is something that I require them to do for homework. So as I'm going through my 18 weeks with them, 18 and a half weeks with them, I'm going over different modules. And I'm not actually going over the NHA module itself. These are resources that I use. So I might be teaching about drawing blood, okay? And so if I'm teaching, I'm lecturing on phlebotomy skills and that sort of thing, what I'll do is I will come to the module that NHA has for phlebotomy, and that's their homework. They have to go through this module. They'll click on it. There's a cool tab that says that they can play the audio, which will read it out to them, which is nice because they're able to have somebody else reading like they're being taught to, or they can read it themselves. Some students may not be able to actually focus to do that, which is why I think the play audio may be good. But they have these different modules that they're going to do. Again, there are activities to do throughout the model. So they'll do these activities along to make sure that each objective that they're going through, they understand. And then at the end, there's a quiz. And the quiz makes sure that they're able to actually understand that entire module from the beginning to the end. It's only roughly about 10 to maybe 20 questions. So it's not very long, but there are the different modules, and they're everything from the administrative side to the clinical side. So they'll have questions on billing and coding, and they'll have questions on phlebotomy. So it's very inclusive because, as we know, their CCMA exam has billing and coding kind of questions. And it also has the clinical aspect questions. So they need to be able to complete all of those. And then with tip number 5, the practice exams. They are given the opportunity to have 6 practice exams. It is required for my students to have to be able to complete these. What it does is it allows the students to be able to take 6 different practice exams that consist of 150 questions each. Now, as we know, our final CCMA certification exam is actually 180, and it is to be done within 3 hours. The 150 question practice exams do have a timer on them. And so it does let them know how long it's going to take for them to finish one and that sort of thing, which is great. But what I do is, because my class is 18 weeks long, I get them to do one practice exam every 3 weeks. Yes, that means the first 1, 2, maybe even 3, they're not going to do 100% well with. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that for 2 reasons. One, they're able to see what it's like to take a long exam that's 150 questions. So they're able to get comfortable with the format of it. It also allows me to be able to look at their progress throughout. They may have done really poorly on the first one, but the second one should be better because they're learning more information. The third one's going to be even better because they're learning even more information. So I tell them that they need to take these practice exams, but they don't actually go in the grade book that are going to affect their grade. It's just so that they can become familiar with it. Now, another thing about this is at the end, they're able to actually go to the practice exam and see which ones they're doing really well, like which areas of the exam they're doing really well in, and which ones they're not doing as well in. So I show them how to do that so they can go back and be like, I'm really not doing well in phlebotomy. But guess what? We haven't gone over phlebotomy, so I wouldn't expect you to do well in phlebotomy. But if it's talking about communication, and that's something we did at the very beginning, and you're not doing well at that, then it is a note to the student that they may need to go back to the study guide and pick out those modules and review them again because they're missing something there. So it allows them with their feedback to be able to go back and kind of know what to study so that they can get even better the next time they take their practice exam. And their last exam, I get them to take the day before they actually take their certification exam. So that's how I do that one. Now, this 6th one I'm super excited about because this one is going to be using the MA SkillsBuilder Clinical. This was something that was brought to my attention and I jumped on board immediately. I know that I live in Virginia and our seasons, we don't have seasons in Virginia. Some days it's raining, some days it's snowing, and it's the middle of August. You never know. But what happens is they now have these SkillsBuilder modules where it's teaching them the exact things they need to do for labs. So it's 12 different modules. It's going over different things that they have to know to be a medical assistant. Vital signs, phlebotomy, EKGs, pulmonary function tests, eyes and ears, and all that good stuff. And what it does is it sends them through virtually how they're going to do a smelling eye chart, how they're going to do phlebotomy, how they're going to give injections. And then as they're taking them through this, it will allow them to choose what they're going to actually do so that they can see if they know the right steps. What this allows for me is that when we weren't able to have labs because of weather or because of COVID or whatever the case may be, or even if a student wasn't able to come because they were sick, then they would be able to look at what the students were doing in class as well. And if they still aren't understanding it, they can go back and keep looking at it. What it does for me as an instructor is it allows me to give my students more hands-on time instead of me having to lecture to them how to draw phlebotomy. I will show them how to draw phlebotomy, but they've already seen it. And so that is great. They've seen it. They're accustomed to it a little bit. They know what they're walking into. And then when they watch me do it, I mean, I might go from spending an hour of lecturing them on how to do it to now only spending maybe 20 minutes. And then I can have them actually putting their hands on. So this is a fantastic thing to use to get them prepared to come into the classroom and do the hands-on skills.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And yeah, I'll just say here that MA Skills Builder Clinical is our latest training product out. So it is our newest one, and it is very immersive, as you mentioned, Shannon. So if there's lack of clinical space or whatever the reason may be, or just to have that immersive experience again in that safe environment, we put the learner in the role of MA. What you see on your screen are the 4 pillars the product is built on. I'll walk you through the learning path in just a second. Since it is our latest product, we're super excited about it. There are 12 modules. So I did mention that we are uniquely positioned working with both educators and employers. So we use that when we can to help make our products. We met with our employers who helped us narrow down the top 39 skills that fall into our 12 modules. So the learning path you see on your screen will repeat 12 times for those 12 modules, starting off with the module overview. It'll set the learner up with everything to come, the learning objectives, equipment and supplies, those types of things. We also still weave in the medical terminology with audio pronunciation, making sure again that we play to all learning styles and keep everybody super engaged with practice checks and all that reporting showing like all of our training products. So that all gets set up here in the module overview of what's happening and what they can expect. Then they move into a differentiator for the product, which is our patient experience coach. So that you'll have 12 patient experience coaches. And these are video coaches who offer tips and advice on how to best meet patient needs, really here putting themselves in the role of the patient, working a little bit on those power skills and that patient satisfaction. So that's really a cool perspective there. Then we move into the framing case study. We have a closing case study too. So these guys bookend our skills immersion. So if we're, for instance, in the vital signs module, we'll have a case study relevant to vital signs, and we'll kind of frame it up that way. Move into the skills immersion where we do that with a video overview. Again, we want to have all learning styles really engaged, and then we'll move into a step-by-step breakdown of each part of the skill, why we're doing it, the rationale behind it, really making sense of it all. And then we'll move into the wrap up where we kind of take all of those videos in a collection in a digital bookshelf where they can revisit all of those skills, any post-procedural considerations, and then make some more application decisions here in the closing case study after they've been through the skills immersion. At that point, they should be ready to jump into their interactive quiz. So that's when they get to really put all of these skills into practice, again, in a safe environment and in that immersive experience. So we are very excited about our Skills Builder Clinical. It is very flexible. It could be used in a variety of ways, with lab, without lab, independently, all sorts of ways. And so the 12 modules are here on your screen. Again, they're made up of the 39 skills identified and desired by our employers. And that is our latest, our newest product here in the training product world at NHA. So glad that you're able to help you, have that help you, Shannon. And that brings me to tip number 7.
Yes. So one thing that I do at the very end of my module is I like to have a checkoff day. So what this does is it allows me to actually visualize my students doing things. I will have a scenario that I put them through, and they will again come to me, 2 people. One will be the patient, one will be the medical assistant. I have a scenario already written out. And what I do is I get the patient to hold on to that scenario and answer the questions that the medical assistant is asking. And I have a lot of information. So in that scenario, so if the medical assistant doesn't ask something, then they don't give that information. If the medical assistant asks something that's not on the scenario, then they're able to answer it the way that they want to. But I also put them through skills. It could be blood sugars, it could be urinalysis, could be throat swabs, it could be anything. And I'm able to watch them individually do these. along with vital signs, because that is the bread and butter of being a medical assistant. So I'm checking with the double-headed stethoscope for the blood pressures. I'm checking pulse as well, that sort of thing. And of course, I observe my students the entire time they're going through their labs and that sort of thing. But this allows that one time where I'm going to specifically choose something for them to do. And I believe that's really, really important, because you can let them know what they may need to work on and things like that towards the end. But you can really see these students really blossom at this point, because they're not having to ask you as many questions, because they've been doing this so often. And so I really enjoy doing the checkoffs with them.
Excellent.
Go ahead.
I was saying tip number 8.
Tip number 8. Okay, now this is great. As our students are going through the CCMA, you know, the different modules, becoming certified in this, I like to offer some stackable credentials at the end. And I think this makes them better for the employers that are out there. The two that I like to add as different classes, mind you, is the certified EKG technician, which, as you can see, is 3 modules. It has 3 practice exams. What it does is it specializes the CCMA into understanding more information about reading EKGs. So it's going to go more into, you know, counting the different blocks and understanding more about PR intervals and things like that, and really specializing them. Yes, they are already certified as a medical assistant that knows how to put the electrodes on people and put the information in the EKG and take care of wandering baselines and AC interference and things like that, that anybody can really be able to do. But this allows them to, in a sense, do cardiac monitoring tech positions and things like that if they really choose to, where they're able to see an EKG that comes out and be able to be like, wow, that's an emergency issue. We need to take care of this now. Not that they're diagnosing or anything else, but they're able to understand it a bit more. And if they know they need to bring it to the doctor's attention, be like, right now, we need to take care of this. This is going to turn into a much bigger problem. They're able to do that. Okay. This is a program that's 6 weeks long. Okay. It's not very big, but this is why it's important that they have the CCMA first, because they'll learn about EKGs in the CCMA part, but this allows them to specialize in EKG. And it's the same thing with the certified phlebotomy technician. This is one class that I actually have going on right now. So in this class, they're going over 7 different modules. There's 4 practice exams with this. And again, just like all the other ones, you have activities to do with it to make sure that they're understanding the content as they're going through it. And then what happens is they have to be able to get 30 successful live sticks in this class. See, with the CCMA one, they don't have to necessarily get successful live sticks. They can work on what I like to call Bob, the practice arm. And that to me is completely different than being able to draw it on an actual human being. So here they have to be able to get 30 live successful sticks. They also have to get 10 capillary sticks. And I like to throw in blood sugars, ABO blood typing, cholesterol testing, all these types of things. So there's a little bit of difference there. But there are special things that they need to be doing for that as well. And again, that is a 6-week program, not very long, but it is stackable. So when my students are going up against another CCMA, if they have these stackable credentials to go with them, then that's going to make them more employable to an employer versus somebody that only has the CCMA. Now, it's not that it's required. None of my students are required to take these stackable ones, but it is talked about so that if it's something they want to do, then it's available to them. And I think that's important because there's such a need for people out there. They're able to go through the CCMA class and get their job as a CCMA, and then they can come back and do these classes as well. So it's good. It's not going to slow them down at all. So that's why I like to do stackable ones. I just think it makes them more employable with their employers. So our tip number 9, this is something I've done with all of the modules, which is to take advantage of the complimentary educator resources that come along with all of the different modules. So educator resources include things like the lesson plans, PowerPoint slides and things like that that you can pull up, whether you're doing things online, whether you're doing them in person. You have these PowerPoint slides that you can use. They have quizzes. They have, one thing that I love the most is the for the MA SkillsBuilder, they have the checkoff skills that you're going to have. So if I need for my students to know exactly how to do the phlebotomy step by step, then they have checkoffs that I can use. So what I do is I give my students these checkoffs beforehand at the beginning of class. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to be checking you off on when I'm doing checkoff day. Okay, so that they know what to prepare for. And it allows them to see this is exactly step by step why I have to do things. But these resources that they have give so much help for educators, because one of the things that could be a problem is finding the right educator to teach the students. So with that being said, you've got a lot of resources that are available with NHA so that you can have educators that are fully involving the students, not just through a textbook. Our students are so different now than they were when I was in school, where we only really learned by a textbook. Now there's so many different videos, there's so many different simulations and different ways of doing things. And we've all had to learn this through COVID when we weren't allowed to be in person and things like that. So using the educator resources that come with the different modules and the facilitator toolkits and things like that is invaluable to educators. Now, this one, I love this one. So tip 10, you need to celebrate your students. I can't say that enough. I know with the Community College Workforce Alliance that I work with, I get an array of students. I get students that maybe nobody believed in them. You know, they said you're never going to really be able to do anything, but always wanted to do something medical. So they come and they try here. Or you got some that are getting ready to go to medical school and they're like, hey, I just want to get my feet wet. Or they know they're going to be a nurse and they're like, I'm just getting my feet wet. So I've got an array of students. I've got some that are good and happy and know exactly what they're going to do with their life. Some that are just trying things and seeing what they can do. But what I've noticed is when it comes down to taking that exam at the end, whatever the class is, they're nervous. And what I like to do with my students yesterday were so funny because some of them were like, Shannon, I just can't do this. They're having pure blown out panic attacks. And, I'll sit with them and I'll hold their hands and I'll look right at them. And I said, look, what you need to remember is that I believe in you. And because I believe in you, you should know that you're going to do just fine on this exam. You've had so many different resources in front of you, so many practice exams. We've been doing this for so long. You can do this. My students get to the point where they may not believe in themselves, but if you believe in them for them, sometimes that's all they need. And when they pass, and I'm giving them hugs because I'm like, look, it says pass. It's fantastic. You know, they're screaming and crying and it's great. And they know, they look right at me and they're like, I never would have been able to do it without you believing in me. And that means the absolute world to me. And then we throw a party. I'm not kidding you. We do a potluck. I have my students come bring food in and I bring food in and we celebrate their success because they need to know they accomplished something great. And this is just the beginning. This can be the first step that they take to lead them on to other healthcare careers, if that's what they choose to do. So that is why I believe you need to celebrate these people. Yes, you do.
So awesome. Thank you for that. What is better than celebrating success? And Shannon, I will tell you, not only was that super insightful, but very inspirational. So thank you for that. All right. Well, before we move into Q&A, I will just wrap it up here with our comprehensive learning track for the medical assistant. We spoke to some of these tools here. They're all, again, very engaging, many of them immersive, using the power of virtual simulation. We really just want to help close that education to practice gap and help make things easier for everybody and really just make a difference. And so we love that you're doing that. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining us. We are happy to give you more information about our all-in-one learning resources for MedTerm and A&P, our virtual simulation, amazing tool that we use for our essential soft skill training to drive that behavior change. And then our latest products, our MA SkillsBuilder Clinical, which Shannon mentioned is that immersive tool for all of those clinical skills. And then we'll be really completing this whole thing here with our admin that should be coming out next. So very excited to not only have them prepare for the exam and pass that exam, but also become practice ready. And we are here to help you every step of the way. And so thank you, Shannon, for sharing with us what you're doing. And yeah, that brings us to the survey we talked about in the beginning. So I believe we're going to put that survey link in the chat. And it will be time for us to go ahead and complete the survey. Your feedback is so important to us so that we could make valuable time in the future and share that together. So if you could just spend a minute or two there filling out that survey, that'll also get you in the running for the $100 Amazon gift card. And then we'll move into Q&A, which we'll have some of our colleagues here working the chat. And if we don't get to your question, don't worry, because we will find a way to get to your question. We will save the questions, maybe put together an FAQ document if that's warranted, but we won't miss anything. So giving you a second here for the survey, and then we'll turn it over to the chat for Q&A and keep Shannon with us while we have her and see what you guys have on your mind. So we'll do the chat and then Q&A. Alrighty, hopefully you guys got that link, and that will put you again for the Amazon gift card, and more importantly, give us the feedback so that we can keep on doing awesome things together. So if you do have questions, I encourage you to put them into our chat. I know there's a Q&A box and also a chat box. I think it's easier to just keep one going. So I recommend the chat, but just get your questions or comments over to us so we can address them and have some conversation.
Hi, Lauren, this is Tara. I just wanted to share, I wrote down a few questions along the way. There is one question to Shannon, actually they're all to Shannon, but here's the first one. Are you using MedTerm as a supplement to your MedTerm course? Are you using it as a standalone resource or in addition to, Shannon?
So right now I'm using it as a standalone. MedTerm is part of my curriculum anyway in my textbook, but it is a standalone resource that I'm using. And I also, with my different programs that I coordinate with, we also offer medical terminology, but we use the NHA resource to do that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Also, another person asked if your lectures line up with the 17 modules in the CCMA prep. How do you line up your lectures?
So they absolutely do with the different things that I'm using through my own textbook. I'm looking at what I'm teaching. So if I'm teaching, say, the minor surgical procedures and things like that, there are modules on minor surgical procedures. And so they line up. It does take a bit of work, to be honest with you, to look at what you're actually using for your curriculum and schedule your calendar that way. But once you've got it going, you're good. I send my students a calendar that says, these are the chapters that we're going over in our textbook, and these are the homework that you need to do. And it's going to be module whatever in study guide, it'll be module whatever in medical terminology or whatever it is. So I give my students a calendar which lets them know exactly step by step, not only what we're doing every day, but also what's required for their homework. They have like a week to do their homework.
Excellent, thank you. Couple more questions. Do you have an externship built into your programs, either for CCMA or the phlebotomy or the EKG? Are those externship, is there an externship opportunity for those?
We have actually just started one it's actually with our VCU health system. They have students that they've implemented into a class that we teach that is taking some of their employees that are doing like patient registration and things like that. So they already work at VCU, but we're putting them through this kind of class where they can get certified to be a medical assistant. And part of that program is going to be the externship at the VCU hospital. But we are going to roll that out with the continuation of our upcoming classes as well. So it will be a one-day process where they go in and they're doing mostly observing at first, and then they'll get into doing vital signs and things like that. They have to be checked off completely before they're doing actually anything on, a real person as far as somebody in the outside world. They actually work on each other during labs, but to work on an actual patient in a hospital, they have to have already been checked off on that. I do not have externships with phlebotomy and EKG, only because they will get that in their CCMA going forward now. And sometimes getting externships for something specific like that, that's something we're working with.
Gotcha, thank you. And then also a couple of people were curious as to a little bit around the structure around your 6-week models for EKG and phlebotomy. Not super detailed, but overall, like what does that look like in a 6-week format?
Well, this is why, like, say for the phlebotomy one, this is why you've got to have like the CCMA beforehand, because I'm not going to have to use all that experience to kind of teach certain things. So the way that I have it set up is in the 6 weeks, the very first week, they're doing module 1 and 2, which is like infection control, talking about CDC and things like that. So they'll do modules 1 and 2 with NHA. And then after that, it's week 2 is going to be module 3, week 3 is module 4, and so on. Because module 7 is more of a cumulative thing where it's like case studies and things like that. I also allow students to bring family and friends in so that they can get their sticks. So we combine our day and our night classes into one clinical area. And we have some lab assistants that help us and that sort of thing. And the day and the night teacher come together with all their students. And so they can test on each other and then bring in family support and friend support to help get sticks so that they can get their 30 sticks.
Thank you. I think 2 more questions that I see. What textbook do you use? I'm assuming like what medical assistant book are you using? And then another question is your class more competency-based with hands-on? So 2 questions.
Okay, so the textbook that I'm currently using is a McGraw-Hill Medical Assistant with Anatomy and Physiology. You know, the 7th edition of the medical assistant book is what I'm using, and we go through all 58 chapters in the 18 weeks. It's a high or fast-paced course because it's only 4.5 months long, but it's doable. And then as far as the second question, tell me the second question again, please.
Oh, the second question was, is your course, your class more competency-based with hands-on?
It is. It's they're going to have a lot of quizzes. They have a lot of assignments and things like that to make sure they're understanding the foundational aspect of it. That's all of their homework and that sort of thing. But it's going to be more competency-based, yes, when it comes to labs and that sort of thing. They are judged on that, not just doing them, but they have to explain how they're doing it to me as well. So there is both of being able to do it hands-on for competency purposes, but also being able to understand why they're doing it, because you never know when you're going to have a patient that is going to ask, why do you have to draw blood on me, and what's the steps you're going to take? So they have to be able to explain it as they're doing it. So it's kind of both.
One more question, just kind of on the structure. I guess the length of time for your MA program, as well as your phlebotomy and EKG. With the medical assistant program, how long is that program right now?
18 weeks, 2 days a week, and it's 4 hours each day. So it's about 8 hours a week for 18 weeks.
And then they probably have some homework. So they get 8 hours of face-to-face time, and then they do a lot of homework at home because
correct.
Gotcha. Okay. And then your EKG and phlebotomy classes are each 6 weeks, and they meet also twice a week with lots of homework.
So yes, and the lecture is 4 hours. The clinical hands-on is 6 hours. So they're doing like 10 hours. So it's like a 60-hour course for the EKG and the phlebotomy.
Great, thank you. I don't know that I see more questions, but I will let some of my colleagues, maybe in case they saw some, so I'll go ahead and mute here.
Thank you, Tara. We'll just see if there are any more questions. And just to your point, as you guys start thinking about, just syllabus or implementation, Shannon is such a valuable resource here with us today. You guys will all be getting this recording, so this will be sent out to you, and you can visit with it or share it with whoever might need to see it. And then always reach out to us. We have a team who will help with implementation ideas, aligning syllabus. You guys are never going to be on your own, so we're all here to help really get you off and successful with the outcomes we're all looking for. So that is always the case here at NHA. And again, the recording will be sent to you. So I know we have just a couple minutes here left together, so I'll check in with my colleagues and see if there are any other questions or comments in the chat.
One thing I do want to kind of say is Tara is my personal representative that I go to. And let me tell you something about NHA, guys. They are always right there for you. Anytime a new thing shows up, like the MA SkillsBuilder and thing, I went straight to Tara. Tara's like, yeah, let's set up a demo. And then she would walk through it and help me implement it. And she would, give me what I need to be able to implement it with my class. They're always right there. So you, like you were saying just a second ago, Lauren, that you're never by yourself, which is so great. They have so many valuable resources for you, which just makes your students even better. It can be overwhelming at first. 18 weeks is a short time period, but because we have such a need for medical assistants, we don't want to have a program that's a 1.5 years long. We need to get them in and we need to get them out. But we don't want to make it so that our students are not getting what they need to be excellent MA students. And with the help of NHA, that's what we're getting. And that's why the majority of my students, when they're done, I'm getting emails left and right saying, hey, I got an interview here. Hey, I got hired here. Hey, can you be a reference for me here? It's all the time. And I'm telling you, I would not be able to do my job without the help of NHA.
Well, thank you for that, Shannon. We love what we do, and we thank you all for joining us today and for doing what you do. And Shannon, for you, again, sharing inspiration and insight. And yes, you will all be receiving this recording, and let us know. Thank you for doing the feedback survey, but let us know what you, what you're thinking, what you'd love to see, what more you want to learn. We're here and excited to talk to you. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. And Shannon, thank you so very much. We really enjoyed our time with you and appreciate you.
No problem, anytime.
All right, so I will wish you all a great day, and we will talk soon. Thanks, everybody.